Alright mates, this is Ash here and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to tell you the story of a Spanish thriller. A gang of robbers accidentally gets their hands on some incriminating documents detailing dodgy dealings of government officials while trying to rob a bank. If these documents were leaked, the Spanish government could collapse. Let's see what happens to these robbers. The story begins in Valencia, Spain, during a torrential downpour. The heavy rain causes gridlock on the city streets. No one can get anywhere because of the jams. At the same time, the city's radio stations are warning about a severe storm. People are urged to stay indoors and be safe. Amidst all this, we see a car stuck in traffic, inside which sits Sandra, the manager of Valencia Bank. She calls Antonio, a colleague, and asks if her name is on the list of people. Sandra tells him if he sees her name on the list, to keep it quiet from everyone. Anyway, after finishing the call, Sandra gets out of the car and walks to the bank. Here, Mahino, seeing that Sandra is worried, tells her the truth. Sandra's name is indeed on the list of employees being made redundant. Hearing this, Sandra goes to her office and calls her colleague Antonio to be sure. Antonio confirms that yes, her name is definitely on the list. In other words, nothing can save Sandra from losing her job now. Poor Sandra's terribly anxious. But just then, during all this, a robber named Gali suddenly bursts into Sandra's office with his accomplice, Jack, ties Sandra up, and makes her a prisoner. Then, the robbers try to crack the bank's vaults and steal the money using their high-tech equipment. Not only that, but they also create a huge hole in the bank's roof, through which they can get the money out of the bank. Meanwhile, the gang's leader, Uruguayo, is forcing all the bank staff to do his bidding so that no one outside the bank realizes there's a robbery going on inside. But despite all these precautions, I have a little child at home. They might be waiting for me. Hearing these words, Uruguayo gives everyone 5 minutes to talk to their families. Uruguayo was acting as if he was going to kill everyone after 5 minutes, but in reality, he had no intention of killing anyone. He was just trying to scare these people. Meanwhile, we see the police station, who have now received the bank alarm signal. They realize there must be a robbery going on at the bank. So, to be sure, they call the bank, and one of the robbers answers the phone. The robber threatens the police, saying, "If a single copper tries to stop us before we're done, we'll kill all the hostages. And yes, we'll only release these hostages." They hang up the phone, and then we see all the robbers going to the tunnel they've created to escape. But the robber named Gali tells everyone that they can't escape through this tunnel now because it's flooded due to the rain. So they decide to wait here for another half an hour because they thought the water level would drop a bit in half an hour. Among them was Sandra, who was being held prisoner, who tells Gali, "Look, I've been sacked from my job today. I can give you a secret tip. If you steal some things from a secret vault that I can show you, that information could change our lives. If you give me a small cut of the money, I can tell you about that secret vault." Anyway, after that, we see a leader named Johnny, who's now in a coma in the hospital. His wife, Maria, is by his side, always taking care of him. But suddenly, Maria sees on TV that the bank is being robbed. Maria immediately calls her security officer and asks, "Do you know the bank is being robbed?" The officer says he hasn't received any news yet. Maria says, "Get the news quickly, because my husband has some confidential information hidden in that bank, which will put Johnny in a lot of trouble if it's leaked." Hearing this, the officer assures Maria, saying, "Don't worry, madam. I'll personally investigate this case." Saying this, he calls another officer, his colleague, and asks him to quickly find out about the bank robbery. He tells him that Johnny has some information in the bank's vault that they must save. After that, we see Sandra showing Gali, the robber, old video footage in which Johnny, a leader of this city, came to the bank to keep something secret in a vault. And in his hand, he had Johnny, including the entire country's government, was very embarrassed because of this. So Johnny kept that hard drive in their bank, filled with information, to hide those facts forever. So now, Gali gives Sandra some valuable diamonds and asks her for the vault number. And because she gets some big diamonds, Sandra tells him that the hard drive is in vault number 314. Meanwhile, the robbers' leader, Uruguayo, calls the police station and tells them to quickly send some food to the bank. And yes, don't try to put sleeping pills or poison in the food, because they'll feed the hostages your food first. Also, Gali had gone to check the tunnel. Among them was Sandra, who was being held prisoner, who tells Gali, "Look, I've been sacked from my job today. I can give you a secret tip. If you steal some things from a secret vault that I can show you, that information could change our lives. If you give me a small cut of the money, I can tell you about that secret vault." Anyway, after that we see a leader named Johnny, who's now in a coma in the hospital. His wife, Maria, is by his side, always taking care of him. But suddenly, Maria sees on TV that the bank is being robbed. Maria immediately calls her security officer and asks, "Do you know the bank is being robbed?" The officer says he hasn't received any news yet. Maria says, "Get the news quickly, because my husband..." Saying this, he calls another officer, his colleague, and asks him to quickly find out about the bank robbery. He tells him that Johnny has some information in the bank's vault that they must save. After that, we see Sandra showing Gali, the robber, old video footage in which Johnny, a leader of this city, came to the bank to keep something secret in a vault. And in his hand, he had an informative hard drive. Sandra tells him that a few years ago, an intelligence leader leaked some of Johnny's confidential information, as a result of which Johnny faced huge criticism across the country. Johnny, Meanwhile, the robbers' leader, Uruguayo, calls the police station and tells them to quickly send some food to the bank. And yes, don't try to put sleeping pills or poison in the food, because they'll feed the hostages your food first. Also, Gali had gone to check the tunnel they were escaping through again by that time. But he sees that the water in the tunnel hasn't decreased, it's increased instead. So, he quickly goes to his comrades and tells them to finish the work as soon as possible. They have to get out of here immediately, or the water might flood into the bank. Meanwhile, the police officers had surrounded. Hearing this, Gali's mate thought that Gali might be deceiving them. He might just be here to steal vault number 314. He must be hiding something from them. Gali explains to him that it's not like that. The manager of this bank told him about this vault. But after hearing all this, the other robbers tell them to do whatever they're going to do quickly. They don't have much time. They have to get out of here immediately. So, they all agree on this and quickly open the vault, take the stuff, and try to get out through the tunnel. One by one, everyone falls into the water. And the last robber who goes down the tunnel pulls a table with a rope and closes the tunnel. Then, one of their mates tries to swim under the water in this tunnel to get to the top of the tunnel. Everyone realizes that there's no way out now but to go back inside the bank again. So, as usual, they manage to get back inside the bank with great difficulty. And meanwhile, the police officers had prepared to enter the bank. But then the police officer calls the bank again and talks to Uruguayo. they say that one of their officers has arrived at the bank door with food for you. Now, at least open the bank door so that they can get the food to you. But actually, the police had planned that as soon as the robbers opened the door, their commando officers would enter the bank. So, the commandos were all prepared. But then the bank door is opened, and then some leaders from the ruling party call the senior officers and tell them to stop their mission right now. Actually, some government officials in collusion with Johnny were holding meetings among themselves, planning how to get out of this danger. But then we realize that one of he himself had sent those robbers to open Johnny's vault and recover that hard drive, because some of his secret things were stored there, with which Johnny often blackmailed him. Hearing this, the other officers get very angry at him, but there's nothing they can do now. So they take the help of a detective named Paulo, who will recover the hard drive from those robbers for them. Meanwhile, the gang of robbers had recovered Johnny's hard drive. They were a bit relieved now, because as long as they had this hard drive, the police or government officials couldn't do anything to them. And also, they could make Urawajo shouts and asks her to open the bathroom door. But when she doesn't open the door, Urawajo angrily breaks the door and starts beating Sandra. He asks her to give them back what you've taken from Gali. But seeing all this, Gali comes there and starts beating Urawajo himself, because he had already thought that Urawajo knew everything about this box, but hadn't told them anything. Anyway, after the beating, Urawajo goes back into the bathroom and thoroughly checks and finds a bag of diamonds there. But there were no diamonds there. He realizes that Sandra had taken diamonds from Gali for giving the information about Johnny's box. Urawajo comes out and tells his comrades that Sandra must have swallowed those diamonds so that they can't recover them. Anyway, then a robber named Loco tries to access that hard drive. As soon as he opens the hard drive, a chess game comes up as the password. But this wasn't an ordinary game. It was a puzzle. While trying to solve it, Loco makes a mistake, and the hard drive crashes, and all the data starts deleting itself. Loco tries a lot to recover the data, but it's no use. They lose everything. Meanwhile, we see that the detective named Paulo has now taken this entire case into his own hands. First of all, he calls the bank and starts talking to Uruguayo, because Uruguayo was the boss of this gang of robbers. So, Paulo tells him that you'll never be able to escape from there, because they've completely surrounded the bank. I want to meet you. Uruguayo thought that if he met Paulo, the police might kill them in a crossfire. So he doesn't agree at first. But Paulo assures him that nothing like that will happen. I actually have something important to talk about with you. However, finally hearing this, Uruguayo agrees to meet Paulo. Hearing this offer, Uruguayo comes inside and tells his other comrades about this, that Paulo wants to help them now. But the other gang members weren't agreeing with Uruguayo because they felt that this might be a plan of the police. But Uruguayo says that no, the police will take them to the 4th floor of the building next to them, and then they'll help them escape by making them wear fake police uniforms. During all this, Uruguayo learns that Loco formatted the hard drive while trying to open it. Hearing this, Uruguayo's world is shattered. He gets very angry at Loco and starts beating him mercilessly. Seeing this, Gali runs and tries a lot to stop Uruguayo, but when he learns what a big mistake Loco has made, he himself starts beating Loco. They realize that the last weapon to get out of here has also been destroyed. But still, they don't tell anyone about this. They now go to a building. So, quickly, they put on the police officers' uniforms there. But then, Gali knocks Paulo's man unconscious from behind. After that, They run away from here without saying anything to Paulo because they couldn't trust Paulo 100%. Anyway, they had also brought Sandra with them because if they accidentally get into any trouble, they'll hold Sandra hostage. But when they reached the ground floor of the building, some police guards stopped them. When those guards were questioning them, they safely put Sandra in a corner of a building and say, "If you can, keep the police trapped in your words for a bit longer. We won't take you forward, because if you go forward, you might be in danger." Saying this, they run away from here. After that, Uruguayo calls Paulo and says that you'll have to pay for the lies you've told them. You've put guards down there, wanting to safely get them out. Now, if you don't get them out of here safely in half an hour, then I'll kill one prisoner every 15 minutes. After hearing these words, Paulo instructs his team to do this work very carefully because this gang of robbers was very dangerous. They haven't failed in any plan to date. So now their main task is to save the prisoners and recover that hard drive. Meanwhile, Uruguayo and Gali were both sitting in the bank's vault room. They were talking to each other and remembering the old days. Even for the fight they had, they say sorry to each other and start laughing together. On the other hand, we see Loco again, who had fallen in love with a hostage woman by now. Even while being with this gang of robbers, he was always doing the wrong thing. He gives a lot of money from himself to impress that hostage woman. And then that girl hides the money in her pocket and safely goes to a side room from here. Meanwhile, Uruguayo realizes that none of their plans are working properly. They might get trapped. So, to survive, Uruguayo calls Paulo again and says that he wants to talk to a government official. Paulo asks why, but Uruguayo doesn't give him any answer and says that if you don't agree to his condition, he'll leak all the data from Johnny's hard drive right now. Hearing this, Paulo's world is shattered because Paulo himself had helped Johnny in various illegal activities, and those records are on that hard drive. Meanwhile, Maria, Johnny's wife, they talk to each other on the phone and realize that nothing will work with Paulo. They have to do whatever they have to do themselves. So they decide to meet Uruguayo face to face after talking to him. And finally, when they meet, Uruguayo and Gali had come to meet them. Those two detectives say that, look, you surrender to the police and give them the hard drive. In return, they'll reduce your sentence significantly. But Uruguayo says that if you can send them abroad along with their loot, then they can surrender. But they won't surrender to you to go to jail. And yes, don't try to lie to them because they have a copy of the hard drive. So if you try to arrest them by lying, then everything from that hard drive will go viral. Meanwhile, we see that a detective had come to meet Sandra. That detective asks Sandra if she'll be able to recognize the robbers, or if she'll be able to help them catch them. Here, Sandra says that yes, there's no match among those robbers. If you can give some misinformation, then they'll create trouble among themselves, and you'll be able to catch them. Meanwhile, the detective hired by Johnny's wife calls Uruguayo again and says that okay, he'll arrange for them to be sent abroad. But before that, we'll have to show a video of the hard drive. But Uruguayo doesn't agree to this at all. Naturally, he doesn't have a video of the hard drive anymore. Everything has been formatted. As Uruguayo doesn't agree to his words, that detective realizes that Uruguayo actually doesn't have any video. So they all plan together that now they'll enter the bank and arrest, but after a while, they realize that the robbers had actually exchanged their clothes with the prisoners they had kept hostage. And the police had mistakenly caught those hostage common people instead of the robbers. Meanwhile, we see the robbers, who had escaped through that tunnel, because the water had decreased from the tunnel due to the rain stopping, and they had fled through the underground. And finally, we see that the entire gang of robbers had safely fled from their country with their loot. So with this incident, today's story ends. Then tell me how it was in the comments. I'm taking my leave for today. Bye-bye.